How you doing, guys? Welcome back to the Food Fight Club. My name is Charles. I'll be your host today. It's good to see you. Glad you joined us. We got a doozy for you today. We're gonna do 10 general or a little more specific facts and stats about eating disorders. Okay. It's been a long time. I've been wanting to do this video. I've had some facts about this stuff in my notes in my phone for a long time, and it's just the right time to do it now. This is a good time to cover it. I'm doing this video so you can get some real numbers on the prevalence of eating disorders on a whole. I know it can feel like you're the only one, and it can get really lonely out there. I know what the struggle feels like. I went through it for over 40 years. I'm here to help you build a better relationship with food. I wanted to help you release your mind, body, and spirit from the oppressive prison of restrictive dieting and finally get control of your behaviors when it comes to food, eating, food noise in your head. And you'll see, when you make the transformation, it will spread to other areas of your life, and your life starts to transform. And I'm living proof. I mean, I see this in a lot of different aspects of my life. Trust me, I never thought actually I could be this happy. So, your mental health, is paramount to, your overall happiness in your life. So, here we go. Let's dive in. Number one. This is the broadest stat and a good place to start, and that is 9% of the United States population, or 31 million Americans, will have an eating disorder in their lifetime. So that's like 9 people out of 100, roughly 1 out of every 10 people. You may be one of those people out of the 10 people, but rest assured, there's another one right next to you, You're not alone. Number 2, eating disorders are the second most fatal mental illness in the United States. Think about that. Let that sink in. The second most fatal mental illness in the United States. Anorexia nervosa has the highest mortality rate of any mental disorder. Okay? It's crazy. Every 52 minutes, a person dies as a result of an eating disorder. So we're not just talking about, run-of-the-mill stuff here. This is very serious stuff. All right, I want you to really take stock. There's another fact here. This one's pretty wild too. Despite the fact that individuals with higher body weight have a 2.45 times greater chance of engaging in disordered eating behaviors as patients of normal weight, such patients receive a clinical diagnosis of an eating disorder half as frequently as patients with normal weight or underweight. So, think about that for a second. I'll just kind of repeat it here. Despite the fact that individuals with higher body weight have a 2.5 times greater chance of engaging in disordered eating behaviors as patients with normal weight, such patients, the overweight patients, receive a clinical diagnosis of an eating disorder half as frequently as patients that are normal weight or underweight. So, I know in your everyday life, in your travels, we all encounter other overweight people, and I have a different kind of compassion for other overweight people now than I did 10 years ago. Because I know a lot of them are probably struggling immensely with disordered eating or some kind of mental problem, and it's a shame. We need to give this more attention in our society. But of course we can't, because everyone's on GLP-1s and the movie stars and the TV stars, and everybody's got to be thin and look like death warmed over. Anyway, sorry. Number 4, global eating disorder prevalence increased from 3.5% to 7.8% between the year 2000 and 2018. That's more than double, okay? In the world, eating disorders doubled, the prevalence of eating disorders doubled between 2000 and 2018. It's crazy. And within that, there was a study, it was 22% of children and adolescents worldwide showed disordered eating. A meta-analysis of 32 studies, okay, we're talking about children and adolescents here, 63,181 participants from 16 countries. The proportion was further elevated among girls, older adolescents, and those with higher body mass index. Okay? The meta-analysis of 32 studies, including 63,181 participants from 16 countries, that's a mouthful, the proportion was further elevated among girls, older adolescents, and those with higher body mass index. It's just crazy. We need to do something about this. We need to get the message out there. We need to raise awareness. Number 5, people of color with eating disorders are half as likely to be diagnosed or to receive treatment. Okay, so if you're a person of color watching and you think you might be experiencing issues with eating, weight, body image, or anything else related to food and behaviors, find yourself a good doctor who cares. If your doctor won't listen to you about it, then find another one. There's all kinds of special doctors out there with specialties. Find one that you can relate to and that is listening to you, especially if you're a woman, because doctors blow off women way higher percentage than men. You know, they're just, it's horrible. So number 6, eating disorder sufferers with the highest symptom severity are 11 times more likely to attempt suicide than their peers without eating disorder symptoms. Even those with sub-threshold symptoms, slight symptoms, are 2 times more likely to attempt suicide. I mean, this is just, it's amazing. We really need to tell people about this. Okay, this is just another little fact. The annual economic cost of eating disorders is $64.7 billion with a B dollars. The annual economic cost of eating disorders is almost $65 billion. That's nuts. Moving right along, number 7, about 40% of overweight girls and 20% of overweight boys use disordered eating behaviors. Okay, so if you see an overweight child, or, let's say 4 out of 10 overweight girls and 2 out of 10 overweight boys exhibit some kind of disordered eating behavior. All right, now we get into number 8, which has to do with athletics. Female athletes are twice as likely to engage in eating disorder behavior than male athletes. However, both men, 77%, and women, 80%, participating in weight-dependent sports report using compensatory behaviors, which means high risk for eating disorders. So these are weight-dependent sports where, you have to maintain a very lean body mass, and, they're things like combat sports, boxing, MMA, jiu-jitsu, wrestling. We've all heard of wrestlers cutting weight before, or boxers cutting weight before a match, MMA, all these guys. Gravitational sports is another one. Long distance running, rock climbing, diving, figure skating, and especially gymnastics. You always see the gymnasts, they're very lean, very muscular, but they're all partaking in these eating disorder behaviors. And if I'll be honest about it, you see a lot of retired athletes or older athletes, and they, even bodybuilders, you see them and they're just heavy. and you think, wow, this guy just let himself go. Well, no, because they were so used to trying to manipulate their body size during their careers that those behaviors bloomed into eating disorders. And I bet, a lot of them, a high percentage of them, do have some form of eating disorder. All right. Okay. So number 9, surviving sexual trauma can increase the risk of an eating disorder. Sexual trauma is uniquely associated with eating disorders. Okay. Even when compared to other types of traumas. If you have survived a sexual trauma and you do find yourself either overeating, binge eating, any of the many types of disordered eating behaviors, please seek help. There is help out there, and find the right person that can help you. Okay. Number 10, eating disorders and obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, I may be a thick-headed Sicilian, but years ago, while eating, it came to me. This idea that somehow eating disorders can, or probably are, in some way, shape, or form related to OCD. Now, I'm no expert in OCD. I've never done any research on it, really, but I know my father definitely has tendencies toward OCD, and I think he passed some down to me. I remember it from when I was young. I realize now that I've definitely got some small tendencies and should do some work on them, but that's for the future. This is why the last but not least stat really hits home for me, and here it is. Obsessive compulsive disorder is a particularly common mental health condition among people with eating disorders. Estimates suggest that between 20 to 60% of people with an eating disorder have met the criteria for OCD at some time in their life. So, you got to ask yourself, do you have some certain plate behaviors, such as food not being able to touch, or eating foods in a certain order, or, maybe other types of behaviors? So maybe it's time to consider OCD as a factor in what you're suffering from. All right, well, there you have it. I hope this gives you, a broader perspective on eating disorders at large in society, and helps you understand that you're not alone in your suffering. I know it's a touchy subject, to get people to talk about this stuff is like taboo. It still is. I hope that, this is going to change, because there's a lot of shame involved and stuff, and it really doesn't have to be that way. Whether you're going through slight symptoms or you're going through a very seriously difficult time, you're not alone. If you find this video helpful, please give me a like, a share, comment below. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what's on your mind, and please subscribe. It really helps the channel, so we can get the message of hope out there to those who need it, and also spread awareness about eating disorders and how there is help. Okay? Speaking of which, if you need help, my email is in the About section. Contact me for personal help, like one-on-one intuitive eating coaching. We can get you started on your way to transforming your life like you've never thought possible. And that's it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you'll grab one of those little stats and tuck it in your belt and carry it around with you every day, and maybe enlighten some people out there that have no idea. And maybe that'll help somebody they know. You never know, okay? Thank you for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Love you guys. Be well.